According to data, Millennials and Gen Z have a staggering 86% less purchasing power than baby boomers did when they were in their 20s. This massive economic gap between generations is the harsh reality confronting today's youth as they attempt to build their lives and careers. The narrative that Millennials and Gen Z are lazy and entitled spendthrifts is often dismissed as a result of poor personal choices and lack of discipline. However, the data shows that they are objectively poorer and have less purchasing power than previous generations at the same age. Factors such as soaring housing costs, crippling student loan debt, lower wages, and inflation are contributing to their financial struggles. Critics dismiss these struggles as the result of poor personal choices and lack of discipline. But the reality is that Millennials and Gen Z are facing economic hurdles on a scale that hasn't been seen in decades, if not centuries. Data comparisons show that basic life milestones have become more difficult, like buying a home or earning a living wage straight out of college. Economists and financial experts discuss the development of the wealth gap between older and younger generations, and what can be done to bridge it. This issue impacts all members of society, as an entire generation being shut out of the basic stepping stones to building wealth has profound ripple effects on the nation's economy and social fabric. Housing costs, the American dream's core pillar of homeownership, has become increasingly difficult for Millennial and Gen Z generations to achieve financial stability. In 1988, baby boomers had a median home price of $110,000, while their median income was $27,000 annually. However, by 2022, the median home price had skyrocketed to $433,000 with a home price-to-income ratio of over 6, making it 50% longer for millennials to save up and afford a median-priced home compared to baby boomers. Rising housing costs have diminished purchasing power and financial opportunities for millennials and Gen Z, making homes less affordable compared to the wages today's youth earn. Factors like population growth, demographic shifts, and millennials delaying marriage and living at home longer have contributed to increased competition and demand for housing. The U.S. median home price never exceeded 2.8 times the median household income during the prime home buying years for baby boomers in the 1970s and 80s. In recent years, that ratio has ballooned past 5 times median income, and in some major cities even exceeds 10 times the median income. The wealth-building potential of home equity has been a driving force for previous generations. But millennials are forced to rent for longer periods before buying their first home, potentially stunting their lifetime earnings and ability to build household wealth. Possible solutions include increasing housing supply through zoning reform, enacting policies to incentivize home construction, and exploring rent-to-own, equity-sharing models to create alternative pathways to building home equity for cash-strapped millennials and Gen Zers. Student loan crisis. The rising costs of housing and student loan debt are causing a significant financial burden on millennials and Gen Z. Between 1991 and 2021, the average tuition price at four-year public and private universities more than doubled, while the average student loan balance tripled from $10,000 per student in the early 90s to over $30,000 today. This has led to outstanding student debt in the U.S. ballooning past $1.7 trillion, weighing down the finances and economic mobility of younger generations before they even have a chance to gain traction in their careers. A shocking 7% of all student borrowers today owe over $100,000. The issue goes deeper than just choosing college majors and perceived lack of financial literacy. Even students pursuing practical majors in STEM fields or other vocations face excessive burdens in earning a 4-year degree. Median earnings for recent graduates accepting their first jobs out of college was only around $55,000 annually as of 2021 data, with the median student loan burden over $30,000 and rising living costs like housing, transportation, and other expenses factored in. An entire generation has found itself trapped in a debtor's prison of stunted earnings and inability to build wealth early in their careers. Reforms suggested include reining in unlimited federal lending, expanding vocational training and alternative certification programs, and increasing income-based loan repayment options. There is also a growing school of thought that promoting the once common path of entering skilled trades out of high school should be part of the solution to create alternative pathways to middle-class earnings without requiring a 4-year degree. Wages and cost of living. The Millennial and Gen Z generation is facing a double whammy, with higher housing costs, student debt burdens, wage stagnation, and a rising cost of living. This has led to a diminishing purchasing power for these generations compared to their predecessors. Real wage growth for millennials and Gen Z has been flat since they entered the workforce. Basic daily essentials like food, energy, healthcare, childcare, and transportation have all grown at rates far outpacing salaries. Even discretionary costs like internet, wireless service, streaming entertainment, and consumer technology have rapidly inflated in ways baby boomers couldn't fathom when they were first getting established financially. The goods and services inflation component of the government's Consumer Price Index shows costs have risen over 230% since 1990, far ahead of housing inflation during that period of around 177%. Gas prices have been a huge burden on millennials, costing up to 60% more today than baby boomers paid in their youth, after adjusting for inflation. Technology and societal changes during this transition have also been a double-edged sword for millennials. Innovations in e-commerce, the sharing economy, and shifting consumer habits should theoretically drive down costs and improve affordability. However, costly new spending categories like smartphone data plans, video subscriptions, and App Store digital purchases have partly offset those savings. Health economists and housing experts caution that with core essentials like housing, education, energy, childcare, and healthcare continuing to outpace real wage growth, the prospects for millennials and Gen Z to attain the same quality of life and household wealth as their parents become increasingly bleak. If wage growth and productivity improvements don't re-accelerate significantly, this cycle of diminishing purchasing power could become a permanent drag on the personal finances and economic mobility of the younger generations. Potential solutions and closing thoughts. The financial realities facing millennials and Gen Z are dire, with housing, education costs, consumer debt burdens, wage stagnation, and diminishing purchasing power being unprecedented in the country. Critics who attribute this to poor spending choices or lack of effort are not seeing the full picture. Personal financial discipline and responsibility are still critical for individuals to maximize their economic mobility against these challenges. Setting a budget to keep major expenses like housing and rent at less than 30% of gross income and transportation costs under 10% is wise guidance for stretching those dollars as far as possible. Taking advantage of tax-advantaged investment vehicles like Roth IRAs can turbo-boost long-term wealth accumulation. Additionally, increasing human capital by job hopping and being aggressive about pursuing better opportunities and higher compensation cannot be overstated. An individual's prime working years in their 20s and 30s are when the power of compounding from higher earnings can make a massive difference in achieving financial goals like homeownership, student debt repayment, and retirement savings. Because wages and salaries are likely to remain suppressed compared to previous generations, actively managing their careers and pursuing opportunities to increase earnings through job mobility is possibly the best individual path for millennials and Gen Z to maximize their earning potential against a deck stacked against them. However, larger systemic changes are required to level the playing field and provide modern economic opportunities for today's youth to build wealth and purchasing power. Some proposals discussed include 1. Housing and zoning reform. Create policies and financial incentives to dramatically increase housing supply at all market levels in ways that can moderate unsustainable home price appreciation. Zoning laws that allow more multifamily and higher density construction need to be reformed in many locales to meet current demand and make homeownership more accessible. 2. New home financing models. Alternative financing and ownership models like rent-to-own contracts, equity sharing agreements, or government-backed low-down payment mortgages could create pathways for cash-strapped millennials to begin building home equity without the barriers of high upfront costs and onerous credit requirements. Public-private partnerships aimed at increasing affordable housing units for first-time buyers may also be another consideration. 3. Student lending reform and debt relief. With outstanding student loan balances now exceeding $1.7 trillion and over 7% of borrowers owing over $100K, it's apparent that the federal student loan system is irreparably broken and akin to indentured servitude for an entire generation. Reforms like ceasing unlimited federal lending, expanding income-based repayment options, providing targeted debt relief, and promoting vocational training as an affordable alternative to four-year bachelor's degrees are desperately needed. Vast public and private sector solutions spanning regulations, government programs, industry reforms, and new business models will likely be needed to reverse the economic fortunes of millennials and Gen Z and prevent their diminishing purchasing power from becoming a devastating cycle for generations to come. Do you agree that millennials and Gen Z are poorer than ever? Comment below. If you enjoyed this video, do like and share this video so that more people will learn about the income disparity throughout the different generations. Check out this playlist of my top 10 videos for personal development, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.